I do not have a lot of time to talk today, so we're going to keep it short and sweet, but then again, I don't have a lot to talk about. Hello, my lovely friends, it's Margaret, and today we are going to be talking about the books that I read. Gonna be honest, it was almost book singular. Apparently, I have forgotten how you finish books. I guess I don't know how to do that anymore, or I didn't for most of October. I just was not doing books. So, hi, there is not much to talk about. I read 3 books in the month of October. 2 of them I finished on the last day of the month because I was this close to finishing them. And I wasn't going to only have one book to talk about and have to wrap that into my November wrap up. We just weren't gonna, we weren't gonna do that. The first book that I finished in the month of October is Fullmetal Alchemist Volume 7 by Hiromu Arakawa. You have heard me rant and rave and just go on about this series, so I'm just gonna do that again. If you are new to my channel and you've never heard me talk about Fullmetal Alchemist before, it is a series that follows 2 brothers, and they have made some mistakes with some magic, and they are now trying to fix those mistakes because they would like to get back to their normal lives. This is one of the more intense volumes, having as far as the different issues in the manga that are included. There are a lot of close calls in this. It will have you biting your nails. I knew who survived. I know how the series ends. I know what happens, and yet I'm reading this going, crap, I don't remember how this gets fixed. I don't remember how this gets fixed. And that was kind of fun. I really enjoy the fact that even though I remember the large overarching plot things, I don't remember all of the little details. And this story is so much more complex than my memory of it is. There are so many different layers that are being explored. It's more than just this story between these 2 brothers. They end up getting caught up in a whole bunch of stuff that's going on in the government, that's going on in their country. There's a whole bunch of political stuff between the country that they are in. A lot of this, we really get to see the impact of the war and what's going on in the military, and we get to see not just how the people in this country are reacting. We also get to start, this delves deeper into the lives of the Ishbalans, who were drastically harmed by this war that Ed and Al's country made against them. There is a lot of espionage and spying that goes on in this one, just because there's a lot of code talk that has to happen, and so you'll be seeing some scenes and be like, why is this happening? Roy, why are you doing this? And then you find out later what is in fact actually going on and what everything meant. We get to see some great moments with the characters, and I enjoy the series, so you should check it out too. The next book that I finished is my audiobook for the month, and it took me far too long to finish this audiobook, partly because I was putting it off for no good reason. There are things that I know about what happens in this series, and it was my understanding that these things happened at the end of this book, and I wasn't ready for the things that are going to happen. And then I got to the end of the book and the thing didn't happen, and I'm just like, what? I will have to read the next book to figure out when the thing that happens. But the book that I read was Babylon's Ashes by James S.A. Corey. I gave this 5 stars. I think I've given every single book in the series 5 stars because I am highly biased. This is a very complicated series. It takes place in space. You start out with 2 different points of view. You have Miller, who's a detective on Sirius Station, dealing with a missing persons case, and he's trying to figure out what happened to this woman that has disappeared. And then you also have this small survivors of this big an attack that has happened. You have James, Naomi, Alex, and Amos, and Shepard, but Shepard really doesn't matter because he's not in it for very long, so we don't care about him. Anyways, you have these 4 people that are trying to run away from someone who has just blown up their main ship while they were out doing other things, doing they were on a rescue mission, they were responding to a beacon, something like that. And so the 2 of them end up intersecting and getting drawn into this whole huge mess that is still having repercussions in book 6. It is just so interesting how Corey has been able to set up this initial weird thing that happens in book 1, and then it has so many ways that it just subtly affects the plot in every other book. It's so funny because it always seems like it's a small little detail where you're like, oh, this is showing up again, and then it ends up being something that is really important to something that's going to happen. I really love how they have built on this initial problem, weird thing that happened, and they keep going. I also really like the politics that they really like have between Earth, Mars, and the people on the belt, and the things that they highlight using that. I think that the first book is probably the weakest. I think so far this has been the strongest. It's definitely the most, like, what's the word when you're really reaching for something? It's the most, I don't know, but it has so many, like, the number of points of views. Usually they have like 3 or 4 in each book. This has, they just go into whoever's head they really need you to go in. You have a couple of consistent ones. You have Jim, but then we get to see from some of the crew on the Rossi. We get to see from people on the other ships. And it's really interesting because they always do such a good job of finding people where they're going to be in these situations that you're going to care about and you're going to need to know details from. But, like, not having it all, like, it just is really genius how they don't have it all happening with the crew on the Rossi. They take out and, like, kind of zoom you out so you can see what's happening over here, and what's happening over here, and what's happening over here. You get Avasarala in this one. You get a whole bunch of Philip in this one. And I just really enjoy how they end up building these points of view on top of each other to create the full story and give you the full emotional impact. There was one in this book that I was just like, dude can choke, but we knew that from the last book, so it works out well. I mean, you know, you're supposed to dislike them highly. There's not a lot that I can say about what's going on in the plot of this. There is a really nice moment at the end where Jim kind of like has some things to say about how the dynamics are, and he's in a situation where you will see a lot of people go, oh yeah, sure, I can do this, and he actually takes a moment to step back and say, guys, no, I am the wrong person for this job, not just because I don't want to do it, but also because you keep making this mistake over and over and over again, and it's the reason that we are in this situation, so let's not make it again. This is going to be the shortest wrap-up in the history of my channel, I am pretty sure. And the final book that I finished in the month of October, I finished in October because it's the group book for the Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge, and I have yet to be late on finishing one of the group books, and we're going to keep that streak like going because I need all of the help I can get. But the final book that I finished in the month of October is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This was a really good one to have picked for spooky season because I was not aware of how just weird this was going to get. If you are someone who does not like body horror, maybe steer away from this book, but like, it was really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1926 Shanghai. The whole Romeo and Juliet part has kind of already happened, and like the parents stepped in and put a stop to things. And so now you have these 2 people that are in rival, like they're the heirs of rival gangs in Shanghai, and they do not want to like each other. They are trying so hard to be like rivals and enemies and be like nasty to each other, and yet they're still sitting there going, yeah, but I used to be in love with you, and you kind of still like just, it was so good. There were a couple of like detractors. There's a reason it didn't quite get 5 stars, even though I really enjoyed a lot of the aspects of it. It is a debut, and you can tell a little bit in some of the writing. Like, I didn't mind it, but I just, like, one of those things that I'm like, this could have been a little bit shorter. However, I just really enjoyed having this story of these 2 people that, like, have a history together and are trying to, like, be what their parents want them to be and not be in love, and yet they're having to work together because there's this weird thing that's going on again with the weird things. There is a monster plague thing that's going on, and they're having to work together to try and figure out, because like no one else in the 2 gangs wants to work together, and they're like, well, we need to figure out why people are dying and need to stop them from dying. And you have information, and I have information, and you have access to certain territories, and I have access to certain territories, and so I guess we have to work together because it's happening in different parts of the city, and the city is very divided between, like, the gangs, and then also we have the influence of the British and the French and other foreign interests that have taken over Shanghai and are using it for commerce. From what I understand, this is a very, very faithful depiction, very well-researched depiction of 1926 Shanghai and the politics that are going on in that time. Back to the 2 people that are having to work together. They're trying not to to be falling in love with each other all over again, and yet, they can't help themselves because, like, the things that made them good together before are still true, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my god, y'all are gonna get in so much trouble. This is not necessarily like a faithful retelling of Romeo and Juliet. More Chloe Gong took that conflict between the two, like, rival houses and the way that that would have affected people, and she placed it in this setting. There are some nice nods. I mean, a lot of the names she just straight up took, but there are some nice nods to, like, the original Shakespeare, and I'm also very nervous because I know how the play ends, and I don't like the play because I know how the play ends. Well, because of how the play ends. And also, I was a theater major and I was made to read Shakespeare's tragedies way too much time. Why do they never assign Shakespeare's comedies to be analyzed and read? I would like to know that, Dr. Pinkney. Why did we not get to read Much Ado About Nothing instead of having to do Hamlet 75 times? In case anyone is wondering why I hate Hamlet, besides the fact that he is an absolute idiot. I liked some of the nice little nods to Shakespeare. It actually had me wanting to kind of, like, reread Romeo and Juliet to see if there was any more that I could be getting and any more pieces that I could be putting together. I have suspicions about what certain characters are and how they would fit into the Romeo and Juliet story. So, however, there has been one major plot point that happened, and then we found a way to make it not as terrible and sad as it was in the play. So I am hopeful that, like, there will be other ways for the big plot point to have. Well, everyone knows Romeo and Juliet dies, don't they? Well, I'm hoping that maybe they don't have to die at the end of the series. I'm just hoping that maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe we don't have to do West Side Story. Maybe we can just have them both be happy together? Possibly? This is gonna be one of those that I'm either really gonna like it or I'm going to set it on fire. We're only gonna do favorite book this month, and that is obviously going to be Babylon's Ashes, because none of these other books have Naomi Nagata. I don't have a least favorite book because I have 2 5-stars and a 4-star. None of the books disappointed me. None of them made me go, this could have been a better book. Like, they were, I mean, I guess technically these Violent Delights did, but, it was still a really good book and I really enjoyed it. If you are feeling chatty, let me know in the comments what your favorite and or least favorite book for the month of October was. Did you read any of these? Like, talk to me in the comments. If you are not feeling chatty but you still want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, go ahead and leave me either a red rose or a white flower. You will understand what those mean if you have read the book. I'm not going to explain it, just... Someone just straight up stole Tudor history for that. Huh. It's effective though. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you would like to help support my channel, there's going to be some other videos over here that you can check out. And then if you like this video and you like those videos and you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!